Okay, welcome back. We are ACI Course 13, Buddhist Logic. It is June 5th, 2026. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Studying emptiness and karma, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with this strong intention, we turn our minds back to our precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, 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 teach me that, show me that. Help help me become that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the pure world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings totally awaken for the benefit of every single other. All right. ACI course 13 is called Buddhist Logic. And everybody goes, logic, it's so hard. And then in the end, they get 100 on all their homeworks and all their quizzes. It is very intellectual. You know, and in that way, it leaves us, I don't know, it's hard to keep the reason we're studying it in mind. It's hard to keep our heart open when we're cranking the gears right up here. So forgive me for that. It's the nature of the beast. And then hot on the heels of course 14 or 13 comes Lojong course, which is all here. So just hang in. We'll get there. What I found about course 13, after I had done it a couple of times, I realized that I had gone through my education, multiple degrees. I got really good at taking in information and spitting it back out. And I knew how to do it. I was good at it. But my educational system didn't really teach me how to think. It taught me how to learn pieces of information and put them together, but not how to think about them. And after 3 or 4 times doing ACI 13, it took me that many because I'm so slow. It was like, oh my gosh, it taught me how to think about the ramifications of something that I'm saying, something I'm believing, a decision I'm wanting to make. It helped me to think about the ramifications of what I'm hearing somebody else say. And actually, what it revealed to me is the absurdity of most of what we do and believe as human beings. And it helped like my sense of humor grow because it's just like, this is nuts what people say, what people believe. And I'm not blaming people, right? It's like I'm right in there with them, making these declarations about things and realizing, oh my gosh, I it doesn't really make sense. So I'm hoping I can help you get this clarity about what Course 13 is really trying to help us do. It sounds like Buddhist logic. We should be able to learn how to apply the syllogism to come to the truth. Come on. What truth is that going to be? We still meet up with the truth according to me and the truth according to you, because we're still going to find it's all karmic seeds ripening and nothing but. Logic does not negate that. Logic reveals that to us. So as we get more able to recognize how we experience and perceive and act according to things totally unique to our own experience. And we recognize that everybody's doing that. It becomes so much easier to make different choices about how we interact with each other. And then when we have the guidelines of our vowed morality, we see, oh, I see why Buddha says, do this, don't do that. Because in the end, the doing that perpetuates everybody's suffering, and doing this is going to bring it to an end someday. When we get that clear in our mind logically, we don't need to act on our vows by blind faith. When we use blind faith, eventually blind faith will fail us. So we're going to get there. So we'll go step by step through the rules of applying logic, which sounds funny. There's a method to applying logic. And then all of those steps in the method require definitions, because we can apply the method accurately or we can apply the method inaccurately. And when we apply the method inaccurately, it doesn't get us anywhere. So we're going to learn. And that's what Course 13 is all about. Now, when Geshe-la taught it, he taught this material that I'm talking about now. And then he also taught the actual method of debate. And when you put that all together, each of his classes lasted more than 2 hours, 3 hours. And I find it's too much to teach the debate at the same time as class. So I separate them. And somewhere along the way, we'll find an extra 4 or 5 sessions together where we'll learn how to apply what we've learned in Course 13, how to do the method of debate, which is the method of how to think through a, a question. All right, so we'll get there. Just anyway, okay? So why study Buddhist logic, right? I just gave you my reason, the impact that it had on me, hoping to enthuse you for this course that everybody seems to naturally go to. But let me tell you a story. We know Gyaltsab Je as one of Jetsun Kappa's main disciples. Gyaltsab Je, Gyaltsab means regent, Je means Lord. So his name actually means the Jetsun Kappa's replacement. So already he has the name, the guy who will replace me when Jetsun Kappa steps out. So I don't know when he got that name. And I don't ever remember hearing any other name for him. But clearly, he's got his monk's name and he had whatever name he was given as a baby. I don't know those. We just call him Gyaltsab Je. So before Gyaltsab Je was Gyaltsab Je, he was already the most famous logician in Tibet. And he heard of this young upstart from Eastern Tibet who was gaining notoriety. And so he wanted to go debate this guy. So he hears that he's teaching in a certain place and he gets himself all gussied up in his debate duds and he goes to the teaching, but on the way there, he kind of gets lost. And he comes across this yak maid, right? A yak herder lady. And she's kind of dirty and disheveled. And he goes to her, I'm looking for that big nosed debater guy. I hear he's teaching somewhere. And she goes, well, I don't know who you're talking about, but aren't you that da 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 guy, the logician? And he gets kind of puffed up. He goes, yeah, that's me. And she goes, well, I've got this burning question. Can you help me? Of course I can help you. She goes, well, look at that yak over there who is conveniently lifting its tail and pooping at that moment. She says, I can't figure something out. When the yak poops, the poop comes out like this, and then it turns and falls on the ground. I can't figure out which is the top of the poop. Is it this? Or is it that? I really need to know. And he's like pondering the question, like any good logician would do. And he's like grappling with it and not really coming up with an answer. And he looks up at her, and suddenly she's this glowing angel. And she says, well, if you meant by that big nose guy the incomparable, extraordinary Jetsun Kappa, he's teaching down there and around the corner, and you'll find him. So we'll learn the rest of that story later, but he goes and he ends up becoming Jetsun Kappa's student. And many years later, after learning from Jetsun Kappa the basics, Madhyamika, Lojong, Tantra, Gyaltsab Je, this great debater, says, the greatest thing Jetsun Kappa ever taught me was logic. He already knew logic and is saying Jetsun Kappa's teaching of logic surpassed it all. And that's what we're getting, is the Jetsun Kappa teaching on logic, in a teeny little fraction of a moment in time, these next, what takes us 6-7 weeks. But we get the basics of it. due to Geshe Michael's extraordinary kindness. So technically, these classes are the first things that the kids in the monasteries learn. So we're actually doing 7 and 8 and 9-year-olds material. By the time they are 12, they start actually doing debate, but with their house teacher, their Ne Lama, and each other. And then at 15, they're allowed to qualify for the actual debate ground. And then they spend 10 years usually going to debate ground every day in order to fine-tune their learning, their training. So then they would take their classes during the day, study in the afternoon, and then take themselves to debate ground to actually learn the material. So again, debate isn't arguing between people to come to truth. It's deep exploration to get to get the aha in there. And when we help each other do it, understanding seeds, we see how that affects our mind differently than if we're just learning it on our own by ourselves to spit it back out on an exam. Okay. So each class will have philosophy, each class will have definitions and the method of thinking, will have examples. And then what I'll try to do is when I do the review of the previous class, I'll do it debate style, like question, and just to get a feel for the very baby level of debate that I'm able to do, that I'm hoping will help spark your eagerness, right, to try it on yourself. Because it doesn't have to be this deep, difficult debating, right? We can learn the method through those quizzes. So I hope I can serve you in that way. So now, keeping all of that in mind, all of it is in order for us to understand emptiness and dependent origination better, so that we can think those through. Every time we do an explanation of dependent origination and emptiness, I know you get frustrated when I get to an end of a sentence and I go, wait, that's not exactly right. Because we're thinking, well, the ramification of that part of the statement is this, and the ramification of that part of the statement is that. And those two don't quite add up. Well, it's because of the language can't quite get it right. So I'm hoping that you'll be able to get this insight into really considering the ramifications of what someone is sharing with you in terms of the teachings, but more importantly, in terms of the ramifications of our own thinking about things that are going on around us and our choice of reaction to it, our choice of behavior to it. All righty. So when we're using rules of Buddhist logic, the amazing piece about it is that you in every part of the statement, we need to be using ideas and words that we call them our opponent, already knows about, already believes. Well, why debate with somebody if they already believe something? Why are we doing it for ourselves? Because we believe certain things about our reality, and we've already figured out that that can't be true. Hopefully, it's not true. And so we want to learn something new. But if we're taught something so totally new that we can't understand it well, it's not going to become a new belief. It's not going to color our beliefs until it makes sense to us. So there are rules of Buddhist logic, and the main one is everything we say, the other person needs to already believe. And then just what hasn't happened is they haven't connected the dot between them. Okay? If this and that are all true, then blah, blah, blah. And what we find for our own selves, when we start looking at that, if this is true and that is true and that is true, and my conclusion is to yell at them, oh, that's not going to solve the problem. Right? Logically, we can come up with it ourselves. So when we're talking debate, logic, it does sound like we're talking about here's me, here's somebody else, and I'm trying to convince them to believe something different. I'm trying to convince David to want to go for Chinese food instead of Mexican food again. I can't just say because I want to. Well, I could say that, and usually that works, but it isn't logic, right? It's just because I want to. So we're going to learn these different pieces. The idea is to help ourselves tie things together. And that's where the new aha comes from. Old understanding, old understanding, old understanding, add them all together. Wait, they don't make sense. New understanding. Do you see? All right. So that we need to learn our textbooks that we'll be studying from. So in the olden days, when you studied course 13, you got handed a notebook and it's like this thick. And the readings are interminable. But what what Geshe-la describes is that reading, it's set up in a certain way such that the first part of each section, the reading is someone presenting ideas, and then the second part is somebody refuting those ideas, and then the third part is somebody refuting the refuting, and the fourth part is somebody refuting the refuting, which is finally what we call the our position, right? That whoever is the one, whatever school it is that's presenting the material. So mostly it will be in either lower middle way or higher middle way for the final statement. So Geshe-la said, when you do this reading, recognize that the first sections, the first things that are said in the debate section are subtly incorrect. And that still drives me nuts because I read it and it's like, well, what's wrong with that? And then it's 50 more pages before you go through all the blah, 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 blah to find out what's wrong with that. So Geshe said, read it, skip the middle section, go to the end section, to the R position, the final what's correct. Read the what's correct. And then go back and pick out where the mistake is in the opening section. So it'll take a little bit of working with it before you can recognize even what I'm saying. But then Geshe said, please don't take your course 13 binder and put it on the shelf. Guess where mine is? On the shelf. But for a long time, I did have it out and I tried to work with it. And it's very difficult and frustrating, and don't worry. The homeworks are easy. They are just definitions. So you'll do fine. So here are the texts. There, screen share. Geshe also gave us a whole lot of Tibetan in this course. I'm going to keep it to a minimum because it takes so much longer. Oh, there. All right, are you seeing vocabulary list? We'll get back to this. Here's the main text we are studying from, but it's not the text that makes up your reading. In Sanskrit, it's Pramanavartika. In Tibetan, Semanamdra. Sema means pramana, sorry. Pramana means valid perception. We're going to talk about it a lot. Vartika Namdra means commentary. So commentary, valid perception commentary, technically. Commentary on valid perception. It was written by someone named Master Dharmakirti, 650 AD-ish, in India. So this is a text originally in Sanskrit from an Indian scholar. The Tibetans call him Lupan, Master Chukidrakpa, which is what Dharmakirti means. Well known all existing things, or well known all the Dharma. Pramanavartika, commentary on valid perception, is not a book describing what valid perception means. It's a commentary on a text called valid perception. So it's a little bit confusing. The text called valid perception, pramana, was written by someone named Master Dignaga, 150 years before Master Dharmakirti, 500 AD. Master Dignaga is called the founder of Buddhist logic, but he didn't found Buddhist logic. Lord Buddha spent a lot of time debating with people, those both his own students and, more importantly, those believers in other traditions, other religions, right? Helping those people look at their beliefs to come to understand them better. No, I don't think Buddha was marching into, some Hindu temple in order to get everybody to become Buddhist. There was no such thing as Buddhists yet during Buddha's time. There was just this deeper insight that the one called Buddha had achieved that he wanted to share with everybody. But you can't just march into their belief and say, you're wrong, you have to believe like I believe, right? You go in and say, yeah, but what about this? What about that? What about that? And see what happens. And we've heard Geshe-la, other teachers, His Holiness even say studying Buddhism will help you be a better Christian, a better Jewish person, a better person in your own religious tradition. And it's so beautiful to have leaders and guides of what we think of as a religious tradition say, learn what you can and apply it to your own religion. You don't have to shift to benefit. All right, so Master Dignaga, he was the one though that formalized the process of logic. I don't know if he started debate or not, but he's really called the father of Buddhist logic. And his text, Pramana, is apparently too difficult for morons like me. And so Master Dharmakirti wrote this commentary on it. But even Master Dharmakirti's commentary is very, very difficult. So we need a commentary on it. There are commentaries on Pramanavartika. What Geshe-la chose to use was this text called Riklam Truki Demik. Riklam Truki Demik means the key for starting the logic machine. It was written by someone named Purbuchok Jampa Sultram Gyatso. His date's 1825 to 1901. This is technically not a commentary on Pramana Vartika, but it covers the same material such that we can better understand Pramana Vartika if we were to ever read it. The key to starting the logic machine is actually a commentary on another text called The Art of Logic that Geshe-la did not translate for us. Mm. Okay. There are a few other texts that we need to hear about that I'm going to come back to, I hope, at the end of this class. What we have so far, however, starts out with pointing out why study Buddhist logic. So they give us 3 reasons. We already heard that Gyaltsabje, the most famous logician of his time, said, the greatest thing Tsongkhapa taught me was Buddhist logic. It's like that right there should spark our interest. There's something to this. But then why was it that logic was so precious? So the first reason they give is that studying Buddhist logic will take us to the direct perception of emptiness. So when we're setting up all the other circumstances, studying taking classes, contemplating, meditating, serving people, serving our Lama, gathering the goodness, really training in deep meditation, studying logic is that factor that triggers our intellectual capacity and waters those karmic seeds to ripen the direct perception of emptiness. And when you think about it, we're using intentional methods of intellectual investigation and hopefully sharing it with others in search of truth, right? The truth of where's the best place to go to dinner? Where's the best, how should we handle this situation at work? We're trying to figure out what would work the best. What is the truest? And if we're sharing with others a sincere effort to investigate for truth, we're planting the seeds to reach truth. And ultimate truth is that emptiness that we rest in for that short period of time, right? The truth of dependent origination, seeing the seeds ripen, hot on the heels with, I don't know how to say it, going into the direct perception of emptiness, coming out of that, having the experience that revealed the four Arya truths. Those are seeds ripening. The seed planting that helps ripen those seeds is exploring for truth and helping other people do it. It really makes sense. Buddhist logic doesn't do it without the other seeds planted, of course. So we're doing it all together. And sooner or later, that experience will be triggered. Geshe always says, especially the study of Chicherak, of generals and things specific of those generals. It's a long story. We will study it a little bit in this course. So if that's not a good enough reason to study logic, the second one is given to us by Lord Maitreya, but shared through someone called the great Sakya Pandita. He said, Lord Maitreya said, that there are two kinds of people who study Buddhism. There's Wang Tul Depe Jedrong and Wang Nun Rikpe Jedrong people. Jedrong means to follow, people who follow Buddhism. Wang Tul Depe. Depe means faith. So there are those Buddhists there are those people who follow Buddhism out of faith, which isn't a bad thing to have faith. Faith means I believe. Right? I'll do whatever they tell me to do because I believe. And Sakya Pandita apparently says those who follow through faith are dull-powered. So Wang To means dull-powered faith followers. Those who follow out of faith kind of blindly, blind faith. It doesn't mean stupid. Faith is really beautiful and strong. But the thing with just faith is that it's very, very possible that when enough yak poop hits the fan, our faith will falter. And so faith alone isn't enough. They call it following through faith is dull-powered. In English, we have the term blind faith. Just tell me what to do. I know you're right. And then what happens, right? When that teacher tells you to go rob a bank, okay, I'll do it. Now, oops, I land in jail. I will start to doubt, very likely. We'll hear that teaching again later. There could be a different outcome. But without logic, we won't know. So then there's Wang Nun Rikpe Zedrong. Rikpe means reasoning. So those who follow through reasoning, Wang Nun means sharp power. So the sharp power of following through reasoning, or those with sharp powers follow through reasoning. It's not like don't have any faith, follow only through reasoning. Although technically that's what Buddha says. Don't believe anything I say until you've checked it out yourself. Remember those 3 tests? So Buddha doesn't want us to just have faith. On the other hand, as we apply our reasoning and see how extraordinary the insights are that we gain about what is being taught, our faith grows. And at some point, it's like, whoa, I can't logic myself any further. I've got to take the leap of faith that everything else they've ever taught me has been true. I'm going to go for this one too. Out of faith born of logic. So that's when we've got the best of both worlds, is when our logic grows our belief so that we don't have to keep logicking it out again and again and again. So the second reason for studying Buddhist logic, we get a quote, which I'm not doing the Tibetan, but the quote is, suppose a person comes to understand the scriptural tradition for how to reason, the art of proving and disproving things. A master like this is a person who keeps the teachings of the totally enlightened Buddhas safe here in the world. So technically, the second reason for studying Buddhist logic is that in doing so, we keep Buddhism alive in the world, safe in the world. Safe not only present, but accurate. Because we learn how to assess what we're hearing teachers say about what Buddha taught. Wait, that doesn't make sense. When we find something that someone's teaching us that doesn't make sense logically, don't follow it. Doesn't matter who it is that's telling you. If you can logic it through and come to this conclusion, yes, that makes sense. That's reason. Then drop the other stuff and follow it. And we can learn to do that not just with our Buddhist study, of course, but with any decision in our lifetime. So if we can't reason out an incorrect explanation of emptiness versus a correct explanation of emptiness, or anything else that Buddhism teaches, then we can't teach it accurately to anybody else. And if we can't share it accurately with anybody else, then we can't contribute to keeping it alive in the world. So also a kind of important reason to get good at Buddhist logic. Then there's a third reason to study Buddhist logic. It's called a negative reason. So we're going to hear this a lot, a positive reason and a negative reason. And my mind still hears positive as good and negative as bad, but that's not how it's being used here. Negative means a reasoning by way of negating something versus a reasoning by way of positing something. So we want to get that in our mind. So I'm just going to read you the Tibetan for this. I'm not going to write it down because it's long. I just want you to hear it because it's kind of famous. It's a scriptural proof. It's a scriptural source of a kind of proof where you're trying to prove something that we can't normally perceive. Like, how do we prove to ourselves that hell realms exist? Or at least that I personally could end up as one, in one. If we can't reach it with our sense contact, how do we really know it exists? We so depend upon our sensory input for what we believe is happening. How do we prove hell realms exist? How do we prove formless realms exist? How do we prove Buddhas exist? It's kind of important. So the Tibetan is Na Dung Drawe, Gansaki Tsutsunki, Gansaki Gansaki, Tsumi Sunte Nyampar Gurtare. All those Gansakis. What it says is, this is Lord Buddha talking. If you are me or one like me, you can judge another person. But if other people, meaning non-Buddhas, but other people, non-Buddhas, should not judge other people, or they will fall down. And we tend to see this translated as they will fail. But it literally means fall. And it means fall to a lower realm as a result. Logically speaking, we can't know what's in other beings' minds when they do what we see or hear them do. But we think we do. We see the boss yelling. We think whatever we think about the boss yelling. And then we act based on what we believe they were thinking, they were trying to do. we don't know. We don't even know, right, whether they're the human that we see them as. We don't know what they perceive themselves as. We don't know. And part of us goes, well, that doesn't matter. All that matters is they're yelling at me and it's unpleasant and I need to protect myself. And so I'm going to react. But in our decision to react, we're reacting towards them with our belief in that they're motivated because they want to keep me in my place, or they're motivated by wanting to show people I'm not as good as them. Well, right, we make up some reason for their motivation that justifies our reaction and then justifies our choice of behavior back. Whether, whatever it is, we think we know. And through applying Buddhist logic, we come to realize, I don't know. I don't really know. All I know is this is unpleasant, right? And I want to do something to make it stop. That's valid, certainly. But then what we choose to make it stop, again, that's where our clear thinking will come in. It seems like if I yell louder than they do, I will, right? I will win. I will stop the bad feeling and turn it into a good feeling. But in the end, does that really work? Right. Okay. Mm. When we are omniscient, we will know their minds. And we will know directly. We won't judge. We'll just know. And we'll know what they need. And we'll be what they need to bring them to their ultimate happiness. But until then, our judgment's going to be in error. And when we act from that error, we plant seeds for that situation bigger to come back to us. It will bring us negative karma. But wait, does that mean if we see somebody beating up another person, we're supposed to go, I can't judge that situation. I don't know who's who or what's going on. None of my business. It's like, no, we don't have to know the motivation. When we see harm going on, whatever the reason, whoever, what's going on, we want the harm to stop. We want to do something to interrupt the process to protect both beings. Doesn't mean step into it and get beat up yourself, right? Drop your purse, fake a heart attack, pull the fire alarm, do something, but not thinking that's the bad guy and that's the good guy, right? They're both suffering beings. Interfering in some way is our bodhisattva pledge to try to help out. The better we get at Buddhist logic, the more clear it is that we really don't know who the beings are that are around us. And that's what helps us tiptoe into Diamond Way, is if we're recognizing we really don't know, are they ordinary being or are they divine being pretending to be ordinary being? I can't know for sure. What would be a way to make more powerful happiness seeds for everybody? Shall I act towards them as if they're normal suffering being and blame them? Or act towards them as normal suffering beings and have my compassion grow and try to help them? Or act towards them as fully enlightened angel being here to give me an opportunity to open my heart to try to help them so that I'm making this even higher good seed. Do you see? Because of our proof of their empty nature. Yes, they are what our seeds are ripening at the moment, and they're still empty of self nature. So we can act towards them as enlightened being, even as we're seeing them as ordinary being, and that plants a different seed that will come back to us in a different way than ordinary to ordinary. You see? So logic helps us to work that out such that it grows in automaticity. Right? And we don't have to stop in the middle of somebody mugging another person and think, wait, are they ordinary? Are they angel? What's going on? We'll just think, right? Here's an opportunity for me to do something. Okay. Geshe says, we would want to act to stop a harmful deed, but not judge the person doing the harm, because maybe there's somebody special. So I get to tell you another story, but oh, it's break time. Let's take a break. Okay, are we back? So Shakyamuni Buddha tells this story. He says, in the time of the previous Buddha, that Buddha passes and he assigns a certain monk to preside over the monastery. Let's call that monk Venerable Bob. He's a good monk. And there's another monk. Let's call him Venerable Joe. Venerable Joe is also a good monk. All of the monks, they're closely following the Vinaya. They stay within the monastery. They study, they meditate. They keep their vows very well. And then one day, Venerable Joe, he gets asked to lunch by the villagers. And at lunch, the villagers very respectfully ask him to teach them. And out of his bodhisattva motivation and compassion, he starts going to the village regularly to teach the villagers. The abbot monk, Venerable Bob, he misunderstands and he judges Venerable Joe and starts rumors that Venerable Joe is acting improperly by going to town. But Venerable Joe's work in town is going so well that other monks are also invited to town to teach the townspeople. And the lay people are learning and practicing well. And so Venerable Bob's jealousy is growing. So he calls a meeting of all the monks. And his premise is that the monks going into town regularly is setting a wrong example, it's breaking vows, and it's improper. So he makes a new rule that no one can go to the village for any reason at all. And so for 3 months, out of consideration for the new rule, Venerable Joe and the other monks stop going to the villages. But the townspeople get upset. And so Venerable Joe says, okay, I will leave the monastery in order to stop being the source of this conflict. So he goes to the other side of town. And the monks that were also teaching go along with him. So they end up having a new monastery on the other side of town. And they go back to teaching the villagers. And the villagers are doing so well that the surrounding villages ask for teaching. And then the bigger cities ask for teaching. And the teachings are spreading. And right, the monks are teaching more and more. And all the while, Venerable Bob, the abbot of the original monastery, is angrier and jealouser, if that's a word, just so unhappy. And eventually he dies. And after countless eons in hell realm, he finally gets another human life in which he's a monk. but something happens and he loses his robes, meaning, he gets kicked out of his ordination. And that happens for many, many lifetimes. Gets his robes, gets kicked out for one reason or another. All of it due to slandering Venerable Joe. So finally, Buddha, who's telling the story, he says, Nam Dang Drawe Gansaki Gansak. He says, if you are me or one like me, you can judge another. But if you are not like me, you shouldn't judge another, or you will fall to a hell realm, fall to a place where you can't make progress, right? You won't just fail to judge correctly, right? You will plant the seeds that will ripen as these horrible obstacles for a long, long, long time. And he says, I know, because that Bodhisattva Venerable Joe, he is now Buddha so and so, who gained his enlightenment very shortly after that life. But Venerable Bob, the abbot, who made the mistake, that was me, who then spent all that time in hell realm, and then countless monks' lives where he lost his robes, etc. So he says, I'm telling you this from personal experience. Don't judge another until you're omniscient. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm judging constantly, right? We can't help but judge. So is he really saying don't judge at all? Is it even possible to not judge at all? Every moment is a judgment. So at one level, we become aware of our judgments and our automatic reactions to them, to cut that place, to choose our reaction to the judgment that we know we're doing that's probably wrong. And then we grow that ability to recognize our judgment as judgment and decide with whether we want to let it stay or not. And then on another level, we can start the process of learning to judge others positively instead of negatively, because we have the tendency probably to judge negatively. It all has to do with this self-comparison that's going on constantly, unnecessarily, but habitually. And then that all the mental afflictions that come up with that. So can we train ourselves to judge others positively? If we're gonna judge, let's judge them positively, because then our reactions to them will be different. And we can be planting our seeds with a greater level of growing happiness versus perpetuating our suffering is the idea. So those are the three reasons. Got it? It'll help us see emptiness directly. What was the second one? I've already forgotten. Thank goodness I have my notes. Keep the Buddha safe in the world. Keep the Dharma safe in the world. And then so that we Don't wrongly judge. All right. Uh, so now there are a couple other texts that we will use for the section on the rules of logic. And they come to us from a category of literature called Dura. This is Tibetan. Dura means logic text. And Master Dharma Kirti's commentary on valid perception is like the granddaddy, but actually valid perception is the granddaddy, but nobody uses that one. You use commentary on valid perception, but then out of that come all these different ones that are designed for the kids to use. Now, I don't think the kids get these textbooks to use, but that's what they're taught from. So the one that I said was the key to starting the logic machine. That one is also called the Yongzin Dura logic text. Yongzin is the word for the tutor to the Dalai Lama. So that author, Purbucho Jampa Tsultram Gyatso, he was the tutor to the 13th Dalai Lama. Ours is the 14th. So the one before, when he was a little boy, he had a tutor. It was this guy who wrote this text. So to be tutor to the Dalai Lama, right, you got to be somebody, right? Probably politically somebody, but also really well educated, well practiced. So he's got a good reputation, this fellow. And so this text key to the logic machine is nicknamed the Yongzin Dura. The Dura by the tutor of the Dalai Lama, 13th Dalai Lama, right? Yongzin Dura. So you have that in your reading. There's also a Dura called the Se Dura. It's a text written by someone named Nawang Trashi. Se means spiritual son or daughter. It also means prince or a very close disciple. So sometimes you'll hear about a teacher and their son or daughter, and they don't necessarily mean literally genetic son or daughter, because most teachers are ordained and they don't have kids necessarily. But you'll hear a spiritual son or daughter, meaning their closest disciple. So this Nawang Trashi is close disciple of somebody. And so they're called the Se. And then the Se Dura is this logic text that this particular person developed that's used by the Drebung monastery colleges. So it's kind of fun to get a text from a different monastery. Then Ratu Dura, the third one. Ratu Monastery is apparently just outside of Lhasa. They're the monastery that put on the winter debates every year. And Geshe-la chose to use it, I think, partly to honor that tradition of the winter debates where all the traditions come together to debate a particular topic. And so he didn't give us all of these texts, but he picked out sections from each of these different texts that were about particular topics that he wanted us to see
how the system works to go from subtle misunderstanding to how we're trying to defend that misunderstanding because we don't know we're misunderstanding it, and then how to work through recognizing the error within it in order to correct it. It's correcting the subtle errors in our thinking versus proving somebody wrong. Right? So if we can get that difference about logic, it's really, really helpful. So each of those texts, what makes the category of text a Dura text is that they cover certain topics. Like here's the topic, and they do this certain method of investigating it. Geshe-la said each of the Dura texts has 15 topics. I don't know why that number. And each of them is divided into 3 different sections. The 3 sections are called the Gak, Shak, Pong, Sum. Sum is 3. The 3 sections of Gak, Shak, Pong. Gak literally means to choke somebody. But here it means to reveal the wrong idea, right? To choke out the wrong idea is the idea of the word. So the first section is always the different wrong ideas about the topic at hand. But it doesn't say, here are all the wrong ideas. It presents the idea. We need to know that we're reading the section where the ideas are wrong because they will sound right often. So our task is to remember there's something wrong with this statement. And then we go investigating to find it. Geshe-la gave a silly example. Suppose the opponent says, emptiness is this green light that shines over your head. And then the defender goes through this logical defense that shows that that's just not possible. And we know enough about emptiness that we could think of different directions one might go. It's like, oh, so you think emptiness is a positive thing, or you think emptiness is something you can see with your eyes, or you think emptiness is something that has a place above your head, right? And investigate to find out whether or not that's true, right? If it's a green light, then everybody would see it as a green light. And if emptiness is there all the time, we should all be seeing green light above everybody's head all the time. And I don't. I mean, it's as simple as that. Once we have the process. So there'll be up to 15 incorrect views that are then correctly refuted. So even in the first section, you get the wrong, and then you get somebody trying to set it right. In the second section, the shak, this is where we set forth our own correct position by giving an explanation. And in that explanation, there'll be 3 parts where there's the definition, what are called the divisions, and the clarification of the topic. So in the middle section is the information about the topic that we actually need to know in order to do the refutation of the wrong view. And then the third section is where the opponent gets to give their rebuttal, their reaction. And then after that, still in the same section, the poem, the defender gets to give their final rejoinder, the final poem, in order to give us the clarification of the accurate the accurate the accurate viewpoint of the topic that we started with. So you'll need to read through a couple of them, looking for these different sections to be able to sort out where is the incorrect, where is the first correction, where is the explanation that we need to understand the correction, where is the section where the person is saying, no, no, that correction doesn't help me, and then where is the section that says, here's the final one. We want to see the progression of thought, not just the final result. We can learn the final result, but to learn how to progress there is what teaches us how to think for ourselves, right? So explore it. Don't try to read the whole reading. It'll drive you crazy. Look through it, find a topic that you're interested in, and use that one again and again and again to explore this. All right, so in learning to think clearly, there's a method that we learn to use that becomes what we call the logical syllogism. Syllogism just means this is the process we go through. And when we all agree on a process, and that process has certain definitions and relationships, we can all use the same process repeatedly in order to come to these new conclusions. So we've learned a little bit about this already. In the syllogism, we have 3 statements with a 4th statement as an example. The first statement is always to state our topic of consideration. They call it the subject matter, but then I get confused with the word subject and object, because in this tradition, when we say subject, we mean me. And when we say object, we mean other. But then we say the subject of the discussion, it's like, is time. And it's like, no, the subject is me. So let's call it the topic of consideration so that we just get past all of that. You state your topic of consideration. Then second statement is to state your assertion about the topic. We believe something about the topic, and statement 2 is what we believe. The third statement is to state our reason for what we believe about the topic, the reason for the assertion. And then the 4th statement, if you want, is to give an example to help clarify what you mean by your, here's the topic, here's the assertion, here's the reason about it that proves my assertion. So then, of course, for this system to be useful, there needs to be a method for assessing whether our assertion is true about the topic, about whether our reason for the assertion is true about the topic, right? Whether the reason even applies to the topic. So there are definitions for topics, assertions, and reasons. And there's definitions or methods of assessing whether or not there are relationships between these three, such that it can show us the truth or non-truth of our reason for the assertion. If we can reveal that our reason for the assertion applies in absolutely every case, then our assertion about the topic must be accurate. If we can ever find a case where the reason doesn't prove the assertion, then our whole assertion about the topic has got to be thrown out and we start again. So we are going to learn these definitions, these relationships, the definitions of the relationships, and how to think through them to be able to assess our own validity of reasoning so that we can help ourselves come to more accurate conclusions about what we believe to be true, and so what we believe we should do in response to certain circumstances. So first off, we get the definition of a reason. So back up here. Taksu kupa taki tseni. We will see this word a lot, tseni. It means definition. Sometimes it means definition like look it up in the dictionary. Most of the time it means giving the thing the label, defining that this is a pen versus this is a pencil, right? That's also definition. And so it gets a little bit slippery when we're doing taksukupa taki seni. What we're saying is what makes a reason a reason. We need to agree so that we can all agree that a statement is a reason. So taksu kupa taki zen-i means anything set forth as a reason is a reason. Tak, T-A-K, it means reason. Taksu kupa, reason set forth as a reason. Tak is a reason. The definition of a reason is anything set forth as a reason. Well, that's fun. It's right to study and practice Buddhism because the sky is green. Is the sky green a reason? Yes, it is. I didn't say, is it a good reason? I didn't say, is it a reason that proves my statement? I just said, is it a reason? What makes something a reason? We just said because. To say because makes it a reason. What's the word in your language? Why should we go to Chinese food? Because it's better for you than Mexican food. Not, right? Why should we go see that movie versus the other one? Because I want to. Okay. How about this one? Because I'm the mother. Anybody hear that one ever? Anybody use that one ever? In my family, my dad used to say, well, I'll take a vote. We had a big family. Well, I'll take a vote, but we'll do what your mother wants. Because, it always ended up that way. We like think of all the things we say after the word because, and think why we say what we say after the word because. Just to say because makes whatever comes next the reason for something. Probably it's not a good reason. Probably it's not the reason that would hold up in your syllogism. And that's where we're trying to go, is to catch ourselves in our because statement and learn how to have our reason be an accurate reason for the assertion that we're making. And we are doing this really all the time. Every time we have some decision to make, somehow in our mind, we're considering the topic, we have some assertion about it, we have a reason that our assertion is correct, and then we use all of that to act. And it's happening fast. So we're going to learn how to break it down. So we will learn what constitutes a good reason, a reason that can prove something versus reasons that don't prove something. And as you can imagine, there are different categories. All right. Wowie, I'm done early. Well, isn't that fun? So I get 20 minutes in the bank. How about I get rid of the share? Did I get rid of the share? Stop share. There we are. There we are. Any questions, comments, anything? Are we eager to get started? Yay.
Teacher,
Okay.
uh, can I
Is
ask
that
something? Uh,
certainly?
uh, not about this class, but about the seed things, because we learned that seed grows in double in 24 hours. So because I'm not sure, I did not see this statement in any scripture, but I assume is the seed grows in every 24 hours. Then I do a simple calculation, then it's a kind of scary that one seed will grow to like 1 million seeds in the 20 days. So that is a kind of scary. And of course, for good seed, then there is a good news. If I donate $1, I should get 1 million after 20 days. So I'm not sure. I mean, is it just a I mean, is it precise like seed grow every 24 hours, or it just like a analogy says seed grows very fast?
Yeah, I think that detail of a number of seed growing comes from Pabonka Rinpoche in that uh, retreat that he was teaching that came to be known as Liberation Thrust in the Palm of Your Hand. Um, I've seen other commentaries say, you can't say every seed doubles every 24 hours because if you have a certain amount of regret, right, that stops the seed from doubling. And if you do your Vajrasattva's, that stops the seed from growing. And right, just because it's doubling every 24 hours, it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to get over the threshold to manifesting. Like, how do we decide how big it has to be before any one of them manifest. The idea is to recognize we plant a seed and already it's growing because it has added power to similar seeds. And our next perception has ignorance in it that feeds the ignorance of this one. So all of our past seeds stained with ignorance are added to by every new seed that has ignorance. Then if you've got ignorance with ignorant liking, our new seeds add to old seeds of ignorant liking. If we have new seeds of ignorant liking but not acting from it, but still ignorantly, we're adding to the ignorance, but we're not adding to the ignorant disliking, right? It's like there's so much interplay between seeds out and seeds in that it the logic of saying, okay, I killed a bug, like I have this seed of having killed a bug, and now it's 2 bugs, and now it's 3 bugs, and now it's 50 bugs, and now it's as big a bad seed as killing a human. That means I can get killed from having killed a human after only 30 days. That doesn't mean you're going to get killed in 30 days because maybe that seed isn't going to get over the threshold to ripening for 16 lifetimes, in which case it's whopping. And then it's like, so do I get killed that many numbers of times? Like we can't get it with our logical brains. The important piece is recognizing egads it grows.
I think because we also learned that, I mean, when we committing a it's like depends on our motivation, whether we think it's a happy thing to do, or whether we think it's wrong things, or whether we are willing to do it again, and that kind of
Right,
situation.
right. That all factors into the strength of the seed, that
Mhm.
factors in the power of its replication. Yeah,
Thank you.
good. Anything else? Yeah, exactly. Karma is more deeply hidden reality than ultimate reality, which doesn't mean, oh, nobody can understand it but Buddha. We want to keep trying, right? But to recognize, even when we think, oh, I understand it, no, right? Understand it enough to change my behavior? Yes. So remember that person we wanted to be able to help? Ugh, logic. We're going to do it through logic, believe it or not. So it's a great, great goodness to be here. And so think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recognize it's your goodness that makes it. It's your goodness that will perpetuate it. And bring to mind that your own holy, precious being. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you and help you and inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. and carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it. By the power of the goodness that we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom may. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. To share it with everyone you love. To share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with loving kindness, filled with wisdom. And may it be so. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Roxana, for putting it in Spanish. All right. I will see you over Friday. See you guys Monday morning. Have a great weekend. I love you.
Thank you for your
Bye.
teaching.
You're
Thank you for the
welcome.
teaching.
Thank you.
Fun with
Thank
this
you,
class.
teacher.
Please stay.